Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
I'm a little bit like Will Anderson Jr. tonight, Rod. Did you see him yesterday at the press conference? He was smiling. He said he couldn't stop smiling. You know, he's ready to get out there and punish somebody. I'm ready to hit somebody myself.
Take it easy.
It's game week. Welcome into Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. You know, it is game week finally, and as we just showed you, we're ready to go. Not going to hit anybody, but sure thinking about it. Alabama head coach Nick Saban held his first weekly in-game press conference yesterday afternoon, and that means, you know what? The depth chart was released. I know at TiderInsider.com. They can't wait for the depth chart, so we gave it to them. Now, this is video of Alabama practice this afternoon. Working out today in shorts, shoulder pads, and helmets inside the Hank Crisp indoor facility. You saw quarterbacks Bryce Young and Ty Simpson, the true freshman. Simpson, the third quarterback on the depth chart. Jalen Milroe is second. You saw Will Anderson. If he don't get you, Dallas Turner probably will. Those two outside pass rushers. There's a grown man on that defensive line. Byron Young, the senior out of Mississippi. He can get it done. Now, not too many surprises on the depth chart. Kendall Randolph is listed ahead of Javion Cohen at left guard. Cohen, the two-year starter. The three starting receivers are Trayshawn Holden, Jermaine Burton, and freshman Kobe Prentice. That means that Bryce Young will be throwing to three different starting receivers than he had a year ago. And Burton and Prentice weren't even on the team last year. Jalen Milroe is listed as a backup quarterback. We mentioned that ahead of Ty Simpson, the true freshman at number 3. Freshman Jaheim Hodis bracketed at nose tackle as a starter with senior DJ Dell. 4 cornerbacks are bracketed together. Kool-Aid McKinstry with Eli Ricks on one side and Terrion Arnold with Kyrie Jackson on the other. Alabama will host Utah State this Saturday night at 6:30 in the season opener at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Senior safety Jordan Battle, an All-American candidate, says the excitement in the locker room is obvious to everyone.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's been a while. I feel like it's been a while since January, but now that it's here, it is very exciting, and it is like, you know, you kind of have anxiety, kind of anxious to get on the field, kind of hit somebody else, you know, because we've been hitting each other for the past few months, so it's kind of fun to get out there and compete against somebody else.
They are raring to go. All right, Mr. Tider Insider, depth chart. Not a ton of surprises. I think I mentioned probably the notes of interest on that depth chart, but anything that stands out to you?
Well, not really necessarily anything that stands out. You know, we talked about the corners last week. Coach Saban even said last week he couldn't name the starters at that point. You see 4 guys bracketed there. I think defensively, when you look at that, that's probably the one area that's maybe the most uncertain spot, if you will. But those 4 guys, very, very talented. We know what they can do. Maybe a little bit of lack of experience. You know, the one intriguing guy on this whole depth chart to me, and it may sound odd, Emmanuel Henderson, the true freshman.
Yeah.
He made it. He's a guy that came in as a 5-star running back, according to some, from a smaller school, Geneva County. He's been here a few weeks, had the opportunity to change the position at wide receiver. Now he's on the depth chart. I think that, and Coach Saban said last week, he's a guy that's going to help us at that position before the season's out. I think that's a guy to keep an eye on.
Also, we mentioned this last week, Cam Latu back at practice this week, but not listed on the depth chart at tight end because he hasn't practiced. So his availability, I think, for Saturday night is probably in question. He'll be back and ready to go, I'm sure, by Texas if he's not ready this Saturday. But because his injury status is up in the air, his status for this game, you're going to see some young tight ends out there that even in a game against Utah State, none of those guys are really very proven at that position.
Yeah, I think when you look at Robbie Oots, you know, he's obviously been around. He's a really strong blocker. I think he's a sneaky good receiver out of the, you know, when they lined him up, moved him around, and put him in the slot, doing different things with him. He's got an opportunity, I think, to, you know, obviously start this game. But a lot of young players, you mentioned the freshman, Danny Lewis, Amari Nyblack, and, of course, the guy they signed out of Hutchinson Community College just a couple of months ago, Miles Kitzelman, now in. So until Cam Latu gets back, those young guys are going to have to hold it down.
And at running back, Jahmyr Gibbs has come out here at Georgia Tech and just taken it, you know, by storm. He is the starter. He's a preseason second-team AP All-American. But Trey Sanders, who has come back from so much, and really at the end of the season last year, it was him and Brian Robinson. That was about it at running back. But with Roydell Williams and Jace McClellan out, he moved up. But now they've moved ahead of him. They're bracketed at number 2, Jason Roydell, Trey Sanders at number 3.
Yeah, well, when you have those guys, I mean, when you have 4 guys like that, and then you have a true freshman, Jamarian Miller, this is a really stacked running back room. I think you've got some guys that can do some different things, too. When you look at, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs is extremely explosive. And I think Jace McClellan is probably underrated vastly by a lot of people in many ways as a running back, but also as a receiver, Gary, coming out of the backfield. And Roydell Williams, it's really good coming off that injury to see the fall camp that he's had. So obviously he's getting back to normal. And you talked about Trey Sanders, who did a nice job down the stretch. So this is a deep running back room. And as Coach Saban made the point yesterday, how many times have we seen you've had a deep running back room, and then all of a sudden you get late in the season and you're hinging on one guy?
A bunch of times.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a position that takes a lot of punishment. You've got to have several, like Rodney said, including last year. We've seen seasons where Alabama went into it with 5, 6 running backs, end of the year, 1 or 2. All right, it's now time for Coach Talk. Nick Saban focuses on making sure that his players do everything they can to understand what it takes to be successful at this level. The drive, the toughness, it's a mentality that he likes to see in all of his players on the Alabama team.
A lot of guys, they kind of slack off a little bit when they don't think they're going to play or they're not going to start or whatever their role might be. And then when they do get to play and they do get to be called on, they're not ready to go. So we're trying to emphasize that so that we get more players on the team who can play winning football for us. And, we're going to continue to do that, at every position.
All right, Alabama's week 1 opponent has already played a game. Utah State played in week 0. They fell behind 14-0, surprisingly, against Jim Mora Jr.'s UConn Huskies. But then they stormed back in the second quarter. They finished the game on a 31-6 run to win 31-20. Utah State quarterback Logan Bonner. Rodney, did you know this? In addition to throwing for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns, he's been in college football since 2016. He started at Arkansas State, where he played for the current Utah State head coach Blake Anderson. Had a redshirt year there, got a COVID year, transferred to Utah State. He's in his 2nd season now. This is his 7th year listed on a college football roster. So you think a 6-year senior like Kendall Randolph is something? They got a 7th-year quarterback. And I'm telling you something, he's a physical kid. He's about 235 pounds. Yeah. And he can throw it, he can run it. Listen, Alabama's better. We know that. They're 41.5-point favorite in this game, but this is an 11-win team and a conference champion from a year ago.
Yeah, they are. They started slowly in this last game. They had a couple of turnovers early. You mentioned Bonner. He threw the ball extremely well. They had a running back. They've got a really good running back, actually, who Calvin Tyler, who had 161 yards rushing. So he had a big day. They're balanced. They've got 3 really good receivers. Gary, they've got Justin McGriff is 6'6", 215 pounds there on the outside. Again, they can throw the ball really, really well. Bonner's a good leader. Defensively, they were a little vulnerable to the run.
They were. They got gutted pretty good. All right, here's the deal. Alabama's used to opening the season in one of these neutral site games against a marquee opponent. That's not the case this year, opening at home at Bryant-Denny against Utah State. But first of all, Utah State, and like I said, they won their conference. They won 11 games. But any chance that you might overlook this team and look ahead to Texas, I think is taken away by the fact that, like we said, they're anxious to play. It's the season opener. Alabama's going to be ready to go.
Well, and I think Alabama remembers what happened when they walked off the field at the end of last season. This is a focused football team, a lot of leadership. And I think when you have the kind of leadership that this football team has, and if you've listened to Nick Saban throughout the month of August, you know that he feels really good about kind of how they've prepared, how they're ready for this season. So, no, I don't think Alabama loses focus heading into this game.
All right, coming up later, our first game week predictions of the season. And still to come on TiTV, we'll give you the latest information and search for the suspects that assaulted Washington Commanders running back Brian Robinson Jr. Plus, Crimson Tide men's basketball landed a big commitment last week, keeping the #1 player in the state of Alabama home for college basketball. That's always important. We'll give you our breakdown of Grissom point guard R.J. Johnson coming up next. And a little bit later on, we'll get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number right there on your screen, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at TiTV@WVUA23.com or tweet at us. Use that hashtag TiTV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. A lot of imitations, a lot of new kids on the block. Tider Insider TV, 20-plus years and still going strong. We're back after this.
This continues to be a nationwide epidemic, gun violence, and I think we really got to start getting to the point where we start talking about gun safety. We can't make this a partisan issue. This has to be something that everybody has to work on together in our communities throughout the United States. And it can happen. It just shows you can happen anywhere and to anybody.
And welcome back to Tider Insider Television, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. That is Ron Rivera, head coach of the Washington Commanders in the NFL. He was speaking in regards to what he calls a nationwide epidemic of gun violence. Well, he saw it up close. We did too. The NFL running back, Washington Commanders running back Brian Robinson Jr. shot on Sunday evening in an apparent carjacking attempt. D.C. Metropolitan Police have released a surveillance image of two suspects wanted in Sunday's shooting and are asking for the public's help in identifying them. They're believed to be teenagers. Police said in a statement the suspects approached the former Hillcrest and Alabama running back around 5:30 p.m. Sunday evening with a gun and tried to rob him. Robinson had 2 gunshot wounds to his lower extremities and was rushed to a local hospital. The incident happened in downtown Washington, only about 10 miles from FedEx Field, where Robinson and the Commanders play. All right, first of all, Rodney, the bad news. He was a victim of an attempted carjacking. These major metropolitan areas, really anywhere, you always have to be on your toes. But he obviously didn't just hand over the car. Clearly 6'1", 230 pounds, an athlete. He was able to fend them off. He got shot twice. That's the bad news. The good news is he is incredibly fortunate. One of the shots went into his knee. It missed all the ligaments. It missed both shots. Basically, he's been released from the hospital. He's on crutches. Rodney, not only is he going to live, but he is probably going to play football this year for the Commanders, which it appears, according to media reports there, he was about to be named the starting running back before this happened. So we're saddened, but at the same time, extremely grateful that a guy that we've covered since high school when he was at Hillcrest. I had him on the set right here with his mom when he committed to Alabama back about 6 years ago. So, we're grateful that not only is he going to be okay in terms of his life, but he's going to play football again this season.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably.
Again, it's an unfortunate situation, obviously, but very, very fortunate to have escaped, Gary. There's no question about that. Certainly, we're very happy about that. I mean, he graduated right here at Hillcrest High School, was a local standout, did a great job here at Alabama, and just glad that Brian, he's going to be able to come back this year.
And from a football standpoint, you talk about a kid that waited his turn at Alabama. There are a lot of people, and you know this, said he'd never play at Alabama, certainly never play in the NFL. Well, he played at Alabama, all SEC a year ago, over 1,000 yards, drafted in the 3rd round, and then as a rookie, came in at 3rd on the depth chart, about to be named the starter. I'd say the guy's pretty good.
Oh, no, he's done a fantastic job. I think last year what he did, Gary, and look, he played late in the season. He was not 100%. He had to tough through it in that SEC championship game with that hamstring injury. Brian laid it out all on the line for Alabama. There's no doubt about it. But, again, just really happy and, fortunate that Brian made it through.
Yeah, and I know we all have to be on our toes, but when you're an athlete and he had a very nice car, you have to really watch out. And again, we're just thankful that he is okay, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. All right, basketball now. Last Friday, the Crimson Tide picked up a huge commitment from the top-rated recruit in the state, Grissom guard R.J. Johnson, who plays for the legendary Jack Doss. Jack Doss keeps retiring, keeps coming back. Now he's at Grissom. He's listed at 6'2". Johnson is 190 pounds. Combo guard, I think he's going to be a point guard at Alabama. Earned 3rd-team All-State honors a year ago. Grissom is a 7A school in Huntsville. He averaged 16.1 points, 6.1 assists, and 2.4 rebounds last season. He is the 2nd Tide commit for the class of 2023, joining wing forward Sam Walters. Rodney, you know how I am about in-state guys. All right, you want to get the best players, but when you got a guy in-state that's good enough to play for you, you want to get him. And Alabama was able to do that with R.J. Johnson.
And playing for Jack Doss, I think that's big. Great preparation for him. And you know what, Gary? Drew DeArmond, who does our basketball coverage at TiderInsider.com, covers this extremely closely. And he said, watch out, this kid's stock is going to continue to rise.
Well, you look at the physique. I mean, he's one of those guys that looks like he could be a strong safety, right?
Does.
I mean,
he really
he is a tremendous athlete. He's put together, and you say, well, if he's going to be a point guard, yeah, but you know what? It's a physical game, college basketball. When you go through that paint, you saw it there. You got to be able to take the contact. You got to be tough. You got to be strong, and he is. And boy, I'm There you go. See him finishing there on the dunk. Excited for Alabama basketball to pick him up. All right, let's get to our break here on TiTV. Coming up, Crimson Tide Soccer shuts out an opponent in a thrilling game on Sunday night, and not just any opponent. What about a top 20 team? And up next, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number, 205-348-9882. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. It's game week. We're ready to go. Rodney and I might get down here in a three-point stance in a second.
I doubt that. I might not get back up.
But we'll have our predictions on the game coming up later, too. Keep it dialed in. TiTV is coming right back. Posted a huge win on Sunday night against number 18 Clemson in Tuscaloosa, 3-0. Alabama controlled the game in every aspect. They got twice as many shots on goal as the Tigers. They also played a cleaner game on defense. The first goal didn't occur until the 33rd minute when Felicia Knox delivered a free kick into the box and Riley Mattingly Parker headed the ball into the corner of the net to give the Tide a 1-0 lead. Gianna Paul scored her first career goal after coming off the bench and receiving an assist from Kat Rogers in the 72nd minute. And then Parker put it away with her second goal of the game. Alabama 3-0. Parker is the SEC Offensive Player of the Week, and the Tide is off to Utah for 3 games, beginning with Brigham Young on Thursday night. Welcome back into TiTV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and let's get out on the phone lines. First up is our pal Sammy up in Walker County. Hey, Sammy. Sammy, you with us?
Hello, Gary.
Hey, Sammy.
Rodney.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
All right. Glad to hear from y'all guys, and doing a great job.
Thanks.
I want to see all the players, of course, young and old, but the one that's so dynamic, the new guy, Gibbs, the running back. I think Gary and Rodney, I believe they'll hit him with some kind of pass out of the backfield on the first play. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, it could happen. I mean, you could see a little wheel route to Jahmyr Gibbs with Bryce Young back there. I wouldn't be surprised if the first play from offense in 2022, Bill O'Brien decides to take a shot up top and getting him out on the edge, like I said, on a wheel route might be a big play waiting to happen.
Gibbs may take the opening kickoff back.
Well, that could happen too. Yeah, but first offensive play, Sammy, you might be onto something. Maybe Bill O'Brien's listening. Bill O'Brien run the wheel route to Jahmyr Gibbs for a touchdown, first offensive play against Utah State. Hey, thanks for the phone call. All right, let's keep it going with Paula over in Alabaster. Hey, good evening, Paula. Welcome to the show. Paula, are you there? I think we may be having some phone issues here. All right, let's keep it going. We'll talk to Rick over in Brent. Rick, you with us?
I sure am. How are y'all tonight?
Hey, Rick, how are you doing?
Fine. What in the world ever happened to Moore? He even scored a defensive touchdown, and is Brooks still hurt? Because I thought sure he would be a number 1 receiver.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Malachi Moore he's on the depth chart. He's second team at a couple different positions, Rodney. I think safety and star, and is a good football player. Alabama is blessed with a lot of talent and a lot of depth in that secondary. And last season, just to be honest with you, Rick, he fell behind some guys. But I think they still have confidence in him, they being the defensive coaching staff, Charles Kelly and those folks back there. And I think you're going to see him play, Rod, quite a bit this year.
Well, I think, too, when you look at him, Gary, Brian Branch, once he got his opportunity, Brian Branch is a great football player. I mean, this is a guy that's going to be one of the top star nickelbacks. I mean, he's just an incredible talent. So I think Malachi, like you said, I mean, he's backing up DeMarco Helms at safety. He's also backing up Brian Branch. He's a guy that he's really valuable.
Yeah, what was the second part of that question? Do you remember it, Rod?
I don't.
It's two-parter. Stu, do you have it? Yeah, Ja'Cory Brooks. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but real quick, Ja'Cory Brooks is fine. He's going to play a lot. He's just not listed at first team, but he's going to play a lot this season.
Yeah, I think Ja'Cory, obviously, he missed the spring. He had some injuries. Maybe that set him back. I know he's healthy now, but like you said, Gary, I mean, the 3 guys that were most consistent, Trayshawn Holden, Kobe Prentice, and obviously Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, but look out for Ja'Cory Brooks. He'll make some catches. All right, we'll be back with more TiTV right after this. Taking more of your phone calls, 205-348-9882. Stay with us. Alabama volleyball's got a new coach, and they got a new attitude, like kicking some rear end. How about that? Rashinda Reed's in, and Alabama opened 3-0 over the weekend. In the season opening Crimson Tide Invitational, they beat up on McNeese State, UTSA, and Southern Miss, and they were dominant. Alabama dropped just 2 sets, and now they head to Houston this weekend to compete in the Flo Hyman Collegiate Cup. Good start for Bama volleyball. All right, welcome back to the program here on TiTV, and it is time for us to take an email. And this is our email question of the day, brought to you by KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family. When you need air conditioning and heating needs, KDM Service Corporation can take care of you. All right, the email this week is who will be returning punts and kickoffs this year? That's from Jamie up in Haleyville, loyal viewer. Ronnie, take it.
Well, listen, I think JoJo Earl was the guy until he went down with injuries. Now we're going to see Kool-Aid and McKinstry most likely back there on punt returns. And then on kickoff returns, it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Ja'Cory Brooks will be back there too, but Jahmyr Gibbs will be the main guy on kickoff returns.
Yeah, but Brooks is listed with Gibbs, so he'll get his opportunity too. But Gibbs is going to be dynamic. Do you like Kool-Aid as a punt returner?
I do, because he's very elusive. If you remember in high school, he was a really good receiver. I mean, he's pretty dynamic with the ball in his hands.
All right, good email question. Thanks for our phone calls and our emails tonight. Well, still to come, it's game week, and that means it's prediction time. We'll get it started with Utah State. What do we think is going to happen? We'll tell you next, right here, when we return to TiTV on a beautiful evening here in Titletown. Back after this. All right, first game of the season on Saturday. First predictions of the season for us. Rodney, as always, you lead us off.
You know, I'm really excited about this game. There's some positions here at Alabama I'm interested to see. I'm very interested to see about these corners going up against Utah State's wide receivers. And how about this Alabama offensive line? A lot of people have questioned them. I'm really interested to see what Coach Wolford, how he has those guys ready. And then all these young, exciting Alabama wide receivers, the new guys, very excited about them. I mean, obviously, Gary, I think Alabama's just way too much for Utah State, 44-13.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of respect for Blake Anderson. He's a good coach. That's a good football team. My question is, where Alabama covered the spread? It's like 41.5. I don't think so. I don't gamble, but if I did, I'd take the points. Bama wins it 55-17. They win it going away. But again, that's 41 points. I think Utah State will keep it within the number. All right, we'll find out on Saturday night. I'll be live after the game here on WVUA 23 News at 10. Thank you for tuning in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Don't forget, if you missed the show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Soccer celebration. We're going to leave you with it. Good night, everybody.